Okay, I'm here with part three of real history. And this theory is that slaves were never real. So, it's another conspiracy. But to be clear, the act of slavery was, of course, real. What I'm saying, this group of people that they label as slaves were never really real. And that African Americans are not descendants of so-called slaves. Yes, we're free from the act of slavery, but there is never such thing as people called slaves. So just hear me out. So before the act of slavery, you really had the fall of the Moors around the 1400s. And then you have Cortez coming to the Americas, conquering the Aztecs, and then going to California, and dealing with the Califians. And as well, the colonies expanded westward, dealing with all these natives, conquering the native tribes. So also in Spain, when the Moors fell, you had a lot of these Muslims, Christians, and Jews expelled from Spain and Portugal. So my theory is that there were never this group called slaves, but that they were actually Jews, Aztecs, Native Americans, Califians, and, with different various actual tribes, maybe even from Dahomey, okay, Benin. So really, it's crazy because, to make a slave, you have to strip their knowledge of themselves, their knowledge of culture, of their religion, of their history. So to make a slave, so-called, you have to strip their whole identity. For example, in the Bible, the Israelites were slaves throughout Babylon, Egypt, Assyria, but they still had their identity. They knew that they were the Jews all the way up into Roman times, the Roman captivity. They knew that they were Jews. So, they, even in slavery, they were still Jews. So you fast forward to modern times and the slavery in America, all you did was strip these people of their titles and their identity, and then you throw on the label slaves. So are we descendants of slaves, or are we descendants of natives? Are we descendants of the Aztecs? Are we descendants of the Cherokee, the Choctaw? Are we descendants of the Jews? Okay. Are we descendants of the Califians? Are we descendants of Dahomey, the Benin Empire? Are we descendants of the Moors? Okay, that's two different things. A descendant of Moors and a descendant of slaves. Because if so, show me on the map this country that slaves came from. I could show you where Jews came from. I could show you where Aztecs came from. I could show you where the natives came from. But where did all these slaves come from? Just another theory. Just another theory out here. So yes, the act of slavery was real, just like the Israelites in captivity. But when they made their new kingdom, they were still Israelites. So, basically my theory is just to say that these people had to make up this whole identity of slaves just so that they could feel good about the practice of slavery. Oh, that's not an Israelite, that's not an Aztec, that's not a Native American. That's a slave. You could beat them, lynch them, rape the mom, rape the wives, and separate their family because they're just slaves. So they stripped their identity and threw on the label of slaves. Just something to think about.